George Royeca, may I just call you George?
Yes, yes.
Welcome to Business of Politics. Now, they say the wealthier and handsomer you are, the less you need to dress up like me.
Oh my God, I wish that were so. It's just that I'm on the road many times, so this is the most efficient clothing for me.
No, but I'm a big admirer. And you said you just got on the road. I'm wondering if you've been noticing, like I have and many people have, the traffic seems to be making a comeback. Perhaps because the economy is reopening, also because we're approaching the holidays, which is typically the worst season for traffic congestion. Is that your observation? What's your reading of our road situation these days?
I think it's a classic case of take the good with the bad or take the bad with the good, right?
Okay.
And yes, the economy is bouncing back. That's something to be happy about. But because of that, congestion is rearing its ugly head yet again.
Right.
And yeah, it's been traffic, typical of Burr months.
Right.
But more so now going into really in the December,
right.
December month. Yeah.
Right. I remember, I think the first time I heard your wife talk at one of our events was that the traffic situation really created or was an inspiration for the need that you discovered and that led to Angkas. Is that an accurate story to maybe portray how your business came about?
Yeah, it's funny because my wife is Singaporean.
Right.
And in Singapore, everything is
so efficient.
About 30 minutes away maximum,
Yeah.
but on average around 15 minutes.
Right.
And when she moved to the Philippines, the first thing she noticed was why we spent hours on the road.
Right.
And as a Filipino, I was so desensitized on this issue that I thought it was just commonplace.
Normal. Yeah.
And it took a foreigner to actually point out that this is really an attack on the quality of life on human beings.
Right.
And this shouldn't be the case. Hence, finding more efficient ways of getting around the city, Angkas was thus born.
Right, right. So I think she was even telling a story about a woman she met who I think was literally crying because she couldn't spend time with her family because she had to wake up like at 4 in the morning or some ungodly hour like that.
Actually, this was at a public hearing on LTFRB. This was the first time that we got shut down, and the room was filled with bikers, and there was among the sea of bikers there was this girl that we didn't know who she was, and she was almost into tears, and she took time off from her work to address the regulatory body, and she was living in Antipolo but working in Mega Mall.
Right.
And every day she'd wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get to work at 9 in the morning. She would leave Mega Mall at 7 p.m. and get home at 11 p.m. And every day, this is a rinse and repeat situation. The problem there was she's a single mom.
Yeah, yes, so I remember, yes.
She'd only see her family on the weekends, her baby on the weekends. And that's where it dawned on me that I didn't know it could happen to become an OFW in your own city.
Right.
And I think that's really where we realize how important this alternate form of transportation is, and to be able to move around the city more effectively and efficiently. And to us, it was just tragic that this was happening. And this is really it really shackles your freedom. And for some people, it's just a mere congestion. But for most of us, what we don't realize is that it is it affects all your big and small decisions in life. Small decisions meaning how many meetings will I take today, right? Where will I go to be more efficient with my time? But big decisions like the social circle you keep. I mean, if you're living all the way in Antipolo and your girlfriend is in Valenzuela, that's either true love or a very, very difficult long distance relationship. School, for example, parents pick school for their kids with the consideration of daily commutes in mind. And all the famous question when you're looking for a job is where's the office? Right? Because really you have to suffer through that daily trek. And I think that becomes, JICA has given us this number of more than 3 billion pesos a day.
About 3.5 billion a day.
Back in 2018.
That's right.
Productivity issues just on that congestion from EDSA. But what it doesn't tell you is how it curtails the quality of life. And we really need to take back our freedom. When we did Angkas in the beginning, we thought we were solving traffic, but we're actually giving back freedom to the people, and that's why it resonated to so many of our commuters in our community.
Right, and if I remember correctly, that JICA study that you mentioned was also projecting that cost of traffic congestion to balloon to something like $5 billion a day without any interventions. Right?
That's true. That was like, I think, 2035 or something.
Yes, yes. And regrettably, the past 2 years during the pandemic, everyone was locked down. People forgot about that study. And now that we're emerging from the pandemic, I'm not sure if you get the same sense, but my sense is like we're surprised. Oh, the problem is back. But we never really did anything about it. I mean, is that your reading of it, or?
So I think there's a lot of efforts around traffic congestion and how to solve that issue. But it really takes a whole of society approach. It's a combination of the private sector, a combination of government efforts as well. I mean, at the end of the day, we all would like mass transport. We all would like
that's the
large infrastructure. And that really is the most effective way to fix the traffic issue. Unfortunately, that takes time and a lot of money. And what do you do in the meantime? Congestion is actually, I guess, counterintuitively, it is a sign of progress. Right? Any progressive city will start facing congestion. The issue is how quickly can infrastructure come up with solutions to be able to resolve that. And usually the answer is there's a significant delay. Right? Now, the private sector stepped in to come up with innovative solutions, and hopefully we're one cog in this massive transport machine that keeps the wheel turning.
Right. So that was traffic congestion was a big problem, as JICA pointed out. 2018. Did you see any improvement now that we're reopening? Was there any good stories to tell? At least, hey, good thing they changed this, and it made your life and your riders' lives easier?
I think for us, we could have done more on the infrastructure side. I think there were efforts with the busway, which I think is a good development. And then there was also some efforts that really pushed other types of modernization program. But I think it's just a continuing thing. In the meantime, what we want to be is that feeder service into the mass transport. Right now, we're largely used as point-to-point. And I think that is deficiencies in our transport sector. But eventually, what you'd like in a very mature and established metropolitan is that you have feeder systems coming from your home to the mass transport backbone.
Right. With regard to policies, one of the things that came up before was this no contact apprehension policy, or NCAP. But it was challenged in the Supreme Court. I think as we're talking now, I think the Supreme Court has scheduled oral arguments. What's your position on that? I mean, have you taken a look at that particular policy? Is it good or bad for you guys?
I think the policy in itself is not bad, right? Using technology to be able to help us with our everyday lives or everyday issues.
Singapore probably has something like that, right?
It's a good thing, right? I think it's all about the devil in the details. Execution is key. And you need to make sure that technology actually helps the situation and not just have it for the sake of using technology. So I think that's where there was a lot of discussion around the no contact apprehension.
Was there a particular part of that policy? You said the devil is in the details, right? Was there anything that you were particularly concerned about? Because some were pointing out the disparity between or among the fines charged with different local governments. I wrote an editorial about this. I think one city charges 300 pesos for not wearing a helmet, and then you cross some unmarked border to another city, it goes up to 1,500. Is that one of the concerns, or is there something else?
I think that's a major concern to a lot of the motorists, and not just the variances, but really more on the communication, right? Because if you're going to our metropolitan, just going through EDSA alone, you'll pass through 17 cities. Of course, EDSA is under MMDA, but the point is, it's very easy for you to cross from one city to another. And I think being able to be knowledgeable, right? I mean, having the law is one thing, but also being able to communicate that to everybody concerned may be a challenge in many cases.
So what's the fear there? You're thinking that since it passes through several jurisdictions, is the concern that you'll charge, if it passes through 5 LGUs, you'll get charged 5 times? Is that the concern, or is it something else?
I think a lot of the concern is the unknown.
Okay.
Right? Now,
Okay.
that's a good question.
Okay.
Is that true?
Okay.
Is that accurate?
I don't even know.
We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe if maybe you can contest that, right? So I think it's tying that entire program, entire system,
Okay.
and making sure that you plug in the loopholes,
Okay.
and also being able to communicate that to everybody, to all motorists concerned, because everybody's affected. So a lot of the times, people are scared of things because they don't understand it.
Right.
And sometimes it's as simple as understanding the situation. But I think, again, going back to the principle of the matter, right? Technology is supposed to make it more efficient, make it
Right.
better, and not use technology for the sake of it. So I think that's what we kind of have to look at and make sure that technology is really helping us.
Right. Well, like I said, I hope the Supreme Court will come out with a decision soon. But there's also some statements coming out from the new Land Transportation Office head and the Metro Manila Council, at least with regard to the disparity in the fines. They were talking about maybe harmonizing the fines and harmonizing the rules. Is that something that you had opportunity to give inputs in, or have you talked to some of these authorities?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
I think at some
So
point there will be some way in from the private sector.
If you had a chance, to give them, because they're fairly new, what are some of the things? Hey, please have a look at this. What are some things?
Well, harmonizing is definitely key.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
we've
one.
been through this before. Remember curfews?
Yeah, that's right.
Back during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
And I think there was already some sort of cadence that the Metro Manila Council developed over time, especially during the lockdowns, where before there was still a lot of, optimization. And then towards the end of the pandemic, there was a little bit of more harmonious, working group with the different Metro Manila mayors. So it's been done before. It can be done again. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
Well, that's good. Well, all right, we'll be right back with Mr. George Royeca of Angkas. This is Business Politics. Please stay tuned.